this, how do they handle it when they don't have, the full message or speak the language? They
But
don't.
yeah, and that's what's crazy is the fact that like even on the continent, many Africans on the continent don't even know this history. I mean, unless they're from Ethiopia or unless they're from Egypt. But even in Egypt and Sudan, like I went to Sudan, even a lot of Sudanese people don't even really know the history of how Nubia was a Christian empire. A lot of them don't even know. Now, a lot of Ethiopians will know because they're very proud of their Christian, heritage. But another problem was that as Western Christians were oppressing the churches in Africa, and then Muslims came in and dominated, and then there was like warfare and like tensions between Muslims and Christians in the Horn of Africa. Both of those forces were like a double whammy that limited the missionary impact that many of the early Egyptian, Nubian, and Ethiopian Christians could have had if the Western Church had not tried to like take the whole church by the reins and act like they're in charge of it and limit those abilities. Now, an area of research that I'm also working on these days is actually exploring the degrees to which, nonetheless, the gospel actually did spread into other parts of Africa. Praise the Lord, despite all of these pressures. But the reality is that it didn't spread nearly as much as it would have, and I would believe that God could have. And so, unfortunately, the gospel did spread across parts of Africa, but not to the degree that it would have. And so, many people of West or South African descent did first hear of Christianity through slave ships and slave castles and all that. But God, in His providence, is like many of the slave narratives said. People like Otobo Kugwano said that what these people intended for evil, God has worked out for good, and we actually heard the gospel through wicked people who were constructing slave castles and auction blocks, and yet we heard the true gospel that said, let my people go. And so we actually practice it even better than the captors did, and more truly than we did. And so that's why Frederick Douglass could say that there's the true Christianity of Christ, then there's the Christianity of these folks, and they have nothing in common with each other. And so God is still providentially, he is still for the last 400 years brought the rest of us of African descent into a knowledge of the gospel, even if it was through wicked means. And nowadays we have the opportunity to reconnect with the church, with the African Christian ancestors that I would say we were always meant to connect with. And it got interrupted, but now God in His providence has connected us back to these traditions. And now we can connect and learn and connect with our ancient African Christian heritage. Just like, again, Asian Christians can connect with the ancient Asian churches in ways that got interrupted by colonialism and slavery. But now we can reconnect with these things.
Wow.